Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Keeping It Real. I'm Reverend Laura, and this is that time we take each week to look at some of the things that we're talking about and the ideas, the principles, and see if we can put them into practical application in our lives. And so for the month of April here, we are looking at the idea of love. And this week, our topic focuses on love in the community. How do we find the way to experience a greater degree of love when we are in relationship and in the company of people that we might not choose to be in company with all the time, or they're people that have ideas that are different from us, people that we find difficult to be around. How do we continue to experience any kind of love, any kind of compassion, any kind of generosity of spirit toward people when we have difficulties with them? So there's this idea of spiritual identity that I talked about on Sunday, and in spiritual identity we get really clear about who we are, and not just who we are, but who they are too, who everyone is. Who to get really clear about what each person is and who each person is, and that each person is that unique and divine essence of the one presence, the one power. When we look at it scientifically, every human being is 99.7% genetically the same. And so we think of all these differences, all these things that make us different, but it's only 0.3% of who we really are. All of our genetic makeup is so much a part of everyone else's. And each one of us comes into this life as part of a whole plethora of ancestors. If we go back generations and generations and generations, I think somebody figured it out. If we were going back 7 generations, we were part of over 200 people. Just moving ourselves back that far in our genetic, in our ancestry. And so we are each part of the people that came before us. I look at my own physical features, and I have my father's hair. I have his mother's nose. I have the shape of my face is my mother's. I have behaviors that are similar to lots of different people in my family. All of this stuff goes into making who I am. And we think we're so individual that we forget that there's all of these things that go into making everybody else. I just look at my own family. I'm quite a bit different than my brothers were. And, they're different than I am. And so we have all these differences that are there, but yet when we look to what we find common within each one of us, we feel a greater sense of connection. Again, if I look at my family, I am different than my brothers, but we share a common ancestry. We share common familial connections and things like that. So those bring us together. So what if we could take that common feeling of family and spread it out even further? Taking a look again, there's only 0.3% difference between me and somebody that lives in the other side of the country, or the other side of the world, the northern part of the globe, or the southern part of the globe, or Australia, or Canada, or China, or Mexico, wherever. There's only 0.3% difference between us. So why am I so interested in focusing on the differences instead of trying to find the commonalities? There's a Rumi poem that I absolutely love. That's it's got lots of different translations, but the one I like the best is, it says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is an empty field, and I'll meet you there. And when 2 souls lie down upon the grass, then words like you and I stop making any sense." When we can get to that place of commonality, that grassy field that Rumi is speaking of, when we can get to that place where we can look at what we have in common, then our differences kind of fade away. And I think if we can spend more of our time in that field, in that grassy field, focusing on our similarities, then I think we can get a greater sense of equanimity in the world, a greater sense of peace and balance in the world, when we are no longer looking for differences and focusing all of our attention on the differences, when we begin to spend more time looking on the similarities. One other person that I love to read is the Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and he wrote a poem many years ago after a tragic story that he had heard on the news about some pirates attacking ships of people that were fleeing Vietnam after the end of the war. And it's called Call Me By My True Name. And in there, he equates himself to all of these people. Like he says, I'm the pirate on the ship. And I'm the person who's been hurt on the ship. I'm the child starving in the street. And I'm the arms dealer selling weapons that's feeding this war that's causing this child to starve. I am everyone. Again, he's focusing on what he calls our interbeingness. Our interbeingness, the things that we have in common, where we intersect with each other. Focusing on that begins to eliminate the feeling of differences. And we get to a place where we can actually begin to have a spirit of compassion, a generosity, be able to, understand, or at least not understand or tolerate, but at least acknowledge that people are going through different experiences. And I am not in their place, but I can put myself in a place of compassion for what they're going through. And I think the more we begin to do that, the more that we can begin to be around larger groups of people who are different than we are. And I think that can only help but lead to a greater sense of love in our entire world. So think about this. See if you can apply it somehow during the week. Look for the commonalities. Look for what it is you have similar to other people around you, especially the people that you're having a difficulty with. You know, in those minor incidents, sometimes it's hard to find those commonalities, but you could both say, well, we both have hair. We both are driving our cars. We're both trying to get to a place at work, or we're both trying to do this. Try to find those little things, the little threads of common humanity, and focus on those as opposed to focusing on the 0.3% that makes us different. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.